We now have to go find new orchards. This is what Elon Musk is doing.
Yep.
He is both going back and going forward to find new orchards so that there's more low-hanging fruit, because there's a financial concept called beta. And in general, when we have something like electrification or digification or any kind of an ification that changes everything, then everybody can get some exposure. Your local laundromat can get exposure to a digital era by broadcasting when the washing machines are free, let's say. You know, they don't have to be in the technology business. Right now, we can't operate our society in a high growth mode. And when you lose growth, the only growth that's left is not from growing the pie, but from eyeing your neighbor's slice. And so right now, we're each looking at each other's slices of.
Man, he's so pessimistic. I don't buy into any of this. We're like on the verge of a growth explosion. There's so many technologies that people are developing now. It's crazy. I don't know where he gets all this. Like, he's talking about the productivity side of the equation, but I honestly think the productivity side of the equation is gonna blow up. Like, we're on the verge of figuring out the only constraint is really us. There's the well. What's up? What's up?
Well, yeah, but you're basing your idea that we're on the verge of this explosion, right? This is based on an explosion of artificial intelligence, right?
Well, it's based on all kinds of things. I mean, there's all these like medical advancements. There's AI is one of them. There's also nanotechnology that's developing. Elon Musk is working on the neural lace, the merging with technology. I don't know what do you talk where?
But I think like the only thing that's going to create the change that Eric's talking about would be something like neural lace. It'd be something like artificial intelligence, generalized artificial intelligence. It had to be something that is going to fundamentally change society or the way humans perceive reality.
But we're drifting away from productivity, though.
Well, no, but his point isn't a point about productivity. It's a point about the way the market is functioning and continues to function regardless of whether productivity increases or not. That's his point.
Are games productivity? Like Cyberpunk 2077, is that productivity?
Of course it is.
Okay.
You mean like the creation of the game or people playing the game?
Creation of the game, people playing the game, all kinds.
Well, I mean, playing the game, I guess, depends on your definition of productivity, but the creation of it is definitely productivity, sure.
Right. Yes.
That's not what
it incentivizes people to build houses so they can get enough money so they can play the game. Like, it's a huge incentive.
No, but what his point is that the country isn't producing the real tangible greatness it once was producing. And so we're carving up
I understand his argument.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But so it's not a question of productivity increasing, because productivity has been increasing dramatically over the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, so but he's saying he's making the argument that ran out somehow. And that's where I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He's not talking about productivity whatsoever running out.
What's he talking about then? He just said we're eyeing each other's slices because the pie is no longer growing.
Yeah, the slice is wealth. It's not productivity. It's wealth.
Productivity is wealth. It is. What are you talking about? The money in the bank.
Wealth?
Money in the bank is not wealth. Wealth is stuff. Money in the bank is like a ledger. It's like a banking ledger. Do you disagree?
I don't know what.
I mean, you have a savings account, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That savings account is there. Is valued at the value it has when you actually spend the money. But it's not wealth. Like, the wealth is the stuff that you buy with the savings account.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying, obviously money doesn't technically have value till you spend it. Like,
correct. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But if you have a bunch of money in the bank that you're calling wealth, and the society falls apart, and there's absolutely nothing to buy with that money in the bank
Sure,
in
yeah,
10
so,
years.
yeah, of course.
Do you have wealth? No,
No.
you never had wealth. If you had a survival
We don't
basement,
retroactively lose your wealth that you had in the past.
if you had a survival basement that was fully stocked, like any Hollywood movie would stock it, right? That's real wealth, because when the shit hits the fan, that's all there.
No, wait. It's only real wealth if the conditions happen that make it wealth. If those conditions never happen, then you've just wasted a fuck ton of money.
Well, sure, that you're
So,
making.
okay.
My only point in the analogy is that the actual stuff is the wealth. Is the wealth. The having the stuff in the certain situation. The wealth is never the money.
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
understand what this has to do with what he's talking about.
He's talking about productivity. He's saying that our productivity has shrunk to the point where now we're not growing the pie, or we don't have new technologies coming out. We don't have.
He's not talking. I don't know why he keeps saying he's not talking about productivity.
What do you think he means
Productivity
about
has
growth?
increased dramatically over the last 30 to 40 years. This is the left's argument.
What is he when he says
increased.
growth? What is he talking about?
He's talking about. That's why I said wealth. That's why I don't understand why you're conflating productivity with wealth.
Well, what do you mean by wealth?
He's saying.
What are you saying about when you say
saying
wealth?
People can work harder to get less. That seems to be the trend. People are working harder to get less. Okay.
Yes, totally.
Okay. So that's what he's saying. That trend is continuing. So yeah, productivity is increasing, but people are still getting less for their productivity than they were.
Right, because they're being squeezed out of the equation. Productivity is actually going up because of robotics and whatnot.
Or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, for whatever reason.
But he's making the argument that growth is no longer happening. Like he even said, we are not able to turn our knowledge into new technologies, which makes me think that he's literally talking about productivity. It's so.
He might be like conflating growth.
I mean, he's making
in
the
terms
orchard
of growth
analogy.
for everyone, not in terms of growth for like the top 1% that control the robots that get all the money. Right?
He made the orchard analogy. Like there's we need low hanging fruit. He's literally talking about productivity. He's saying, the land produces, but as soon as the land doesn't produce, then
everybody can get some exposure. Your local laundromat can get exposure to a digital era by broadcasting when the washing machines are free, let's say. They don't have to be in the technology business. Right now, we can't operate our society in a high growth mode. And when you lose growth, the only growth that's left is not from growing the pie, but from eyeing your neighbor's slice. And so right now, we're each looking at each other.
He's just saying that
growth is productivity.
He's saying that the growth that we experienced from the 50s to the 70s is not happening right now, and maybe won't happen in the future for a long time.
Yeah, this is what I'm totally disagreeing with him on.
Okay,
I think he's
and you're
fucking
saying you disagree
high.
with
I think
that.
he smoked too much cocaine.
No, but it seems like even the growth that's happening now, it's not happening universally the way it was happening from the 50s to the 70s. It's all growth at the top. Which doesn't.
So he's completely missing the point that it's a distribution thing. It's not like he's talking about the growth. He's saying the growth isn't there when you're saying the growth is there. It's just not being evenly distributed.
Well, I'm trying to interpret what he's saying. So maybe I don't know if that's what he's saying or not.
He's saying that the growth is not there, which I think is like crazy bonkers. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
His point might be that if you would ask him this, he'd say, no, the growth has been the same, or no, the growth has been less, and that's why the distribution has been less.
I think this is just Eric's bias. Eric's bias is like, we should be developing these new technologies, and we're not. So therefore, growth is coming to a stop because my pet technology is not being developed when other technologies are being developed. I think it's a personal bias on his part.
Well, because he brings up the point, which I think he hasn't brought to yet, where he says if you were to walk into a house from the 1970s versus today, if you remove all the screens,
which is everything. We live in a fucking information economy. It's totally stupid for him to say that.
But it's not stupid, because if you look at what everyone in 1970s thought the year 2020 would be, no one thought it would be the same thing, but with a bunch of cell phones everywhere. That's not what anyone, that's not what anyone possibly
This is why I
imagined.
brought up the game thing, because the game is productivity. He's just not recognizing where the productivity is.
Okay.
Because Eric
I
doesn't
don't-
play fucking games. Eric doesn't engage in the culture in any meaningful way whatsoever.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know anything about his personal life. How dare you? He could be an avid gamer.
Until he plays Titanfall 2 with us, he's not a
There
gamer.
you go. There you go.
Each other's slices of the pie. And instead of seeing a brother, a comrade, a fellow countryman, we see a source of protein. And that is the terrible.
He's talking about we're fucking gonna eat each other. What's this dour? Man, I don't know about this.
But that's what I agree with you that I think there's optimism because we could be on the horizon of something, but this is the world we've been in for the last 20 years.
This is the scary thing that he's talking about is what this, if this is what he's pulling from the heads of elites, I'm totally terrified. Because if they think,
terribly concerned, which is we have got to stop eating each other to get back to the business of innovation, because this entire nation won't work until
he is talking about productivity and innovation.
we return to growth. And what we're doing is cannibalizing the very people who are capable of producing growth.
Right. So here's the thing on that. We can't seem to produce.
I don't know who he's talking about when he says cannibalizing the people who are capable of growth or capable of innovation. I don't know what he means by that.
I'm assuming, again, I'm doing some mind reading. I think
Because
I've
if
heard
he's
him
talking
talk
about the
this.
workers, fuck that. We don't need the workers. We have robots.
I think I've heard him talk about this before, where he's saying that a lot of the financial institutions and businesses have realized that it's easier to grow in ways without creating actual innovation. So it's easier for them to grow on these house of cards,
Yeah,
like the housing crisis, right? Situation. So there isn't real growth happening. It's all just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, well,
to
I
keep
disagree.
the growth going.
I disagree.
Okay.
I do agree with the fact that the financial sector is completely blown out of proportion. But I mean, this is Eric's bias again, because Eric is from the financial sector and he realizes, hey, we're not creating anything. We're just like basically, they're a casino.
Right.
But there are sectors of the economy that are creating things and growing things. It's not our fault that Eric is not a part of them. It's not our fault that Eric didn't use his big brain to try to find a cure for cancer or go into the medical field. That's not our fault.
It's not your fault.
It isn't.
It's not our fault.
It's Eric's fault. But this is the problem. If the huge this is why the financial sector is as bloated as it is, because the incentives are there. Like if you know you can go to Wall Street, like people want to do whatever they can to make a bunch of money and be successful and drive a nice car and have a great life. That's what they want. So if you can do that becoming a financial person or becoming a doctor, and the doctor looks like, well, that's hard. It's a lot easier to become a financial guy. Then you're going to have a lot of people becoming financial guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But the financial sector shouldn't be, I mean, it does serve a purpose, but I don't like the way that it
shouldn't be the behemoth that it currently
it shouldn't be the chief product it shouldn't be the number one product. Sure. It shouldn't be the number one source of our productivity. I don't even know if I'm calling it productivity seems wrong. I feel like a game, Cyberpunk 2077 is more productivity than financial, but people need mortgages and stuff like that. So maybe not.